to the deep dive. Today we are opening our show with a scene that is just sheer chaos, really high stakes desperation. Picture yourself, our listener, as Maria Eugenia, the narrator of our source material. You've just walked in the door and instantly you were surrounded by this panicked, shouting battalion of cousins.
Yeah, and their immediate frantic instruction is hide Maria Eugenia because Tio Calixto is going to kill her.
It's the absolute definition of a forbidden love crisis, right? Demanding an instant human shield.
Exactly. And this chaotic moment, it's the trigger point for the source we're diving into today. An intense excerpt from a memoir called Hiding Maria Eugenia, A Forbidden Love. This part details just a single, terrifying 24-hour disappearance and the immense risks, both social and physical, taken by these two young people.
So our mission today is to unpack the incredible pressure surrounding that missing night. We're going to try and deconstruct the three narratives really playing out here.
Right. There's the official story, the one they had to invent to survive, society's judgment.
Then there's the chaotic, kind of spontaneous truth of what actually happened.
And finally, the emotional impact of silence, this paralysis that follows the whole ordeal.
The initial scene just sets the stakes immediately. Tio Calixto's fury is what drives the panic, but it's our narrator's own father, Tio Calixto's brother, also a Gallardo who's pacing, described as having that ferocious Gallardo temper just fully unleashed.
Mm-hmm. And the cousins, they managed to shove Maria Eugenia into a back room, actually the maid, Carmen's room usually. They're standing guard, and the source says they're laughing. But it's clearly not funny laughter.
No, it's that high-pitched, adrenaline release, pure panic.
Exactly. The atmosphere is just thick with tension. This isn't just about grounding a teenager for being late.
No, not at all. This is family honor, societal reputation, and the very real possibility of, violence. You immediately get that survival here means crafting a story, a really solid one, that nobody can poke holes in.
Okay, so let's dive straight into the immediate fallout. Because the second Maria Eugenia is hidden, the family basically mobilizes.
The father was desperate. His immediate action tells you everything about how urgent this was perceived.
He was, and the source uses the phrase, desperate with his daughter disappeared. The social stakes were just enormous. He sends emissaries straight over to Hugo's house, that's the young man involved.
To confirm he's missing too, right?
Right, and he is. But the real sort of cold shower of societal pressure comes from Hugo's side of the family.
Yes. This is where it shifts from internal family drama to almost a class conflict. Hugo's own grandmother issues this statement that's just breathtakingly harsh.
It really is. She just throws down the gauntlet, no beating around the bush, a severe ultimatum. If Hugo marries a Gallardo, he is disinherited instantly.
And the specific punishment she mentions is just so pointedly humiliating.
It is. He will have to dedicate himself to selling newspapers.
Selling newspapers. I mean, that threat is so specific, so designed to strip him of all social standing. It just hammers home how completely unacceptable this relationship was considered.
Absolutely. That's not just losing your inheritance. It's like social death.
It confirms this wasn't just some teenage fling they were worried about. They were risking everything fundamental to their place in that society.
Mm-hmm. And interestingly, in the middle of all this chaos, the source points to an unexpected source of stability. Carmen.
Right. I found this part fascinating. Carmen, the maid, is described as the only one really capable of crisis control. The most intelligent, the most experienced in dealing with, quote, furious aggressors.
She's the one who actually calms the father down, manages the cousins, gets them out of there, and basically stabilizes the household so Hugo can eventually return and deliver the official story, the alibi.
It's interesting how the official power structure, the patriarchs, they've completely broken down. They're running on pure rage.
But the person with the real situational authority, the one who understands how to navigate these volatile personalities and protect the family's reputation, is Carmen. She's the power broker in that moment.
Which sets the stage perfectly for the lie, doesn't it? Hugo comes back, delivers this very precise, detailed explanation, and then leaves. What was that exact military cover story he gave the father? And why was it such a perfect alibi for that time and place?
Well, it was terrifyingly plausible because it tapped right into the reality of their militarized environment at the time. Hugo claimed that after picking Maria Eugenia up and having dinner, they were rushing home for that critical 8 p.m. curfew.
The curfew is key, isn't it? That makes the whole thing instantly believable. Everyone understood the arbitrary danger of being out after dark.
Exactly. So he claimed they were stopped on Boulevard Liberation by an army operation. And the reason The specific vehicle he was driving, the red Jeep, the Finca car, apparently matched the description of a vehicle used by guerrillas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And according to the story, the more they tried to explain, the worse it got. Her school uniform looked suspicious. Hugo tried to offer a bribe.
Which, of course, backfired in the story.
Right. Sealed their fate with these fictional soldiers. So they were allegedly seized, the Jeep confiscated, and taken to Cuartel Matamoros in Zone 5. They supposedly spent the entire night being questioned in an office.
And crucially, Hugo stressed they were never separated, right? That detail was vital.
Absolutely vital. Designed specifically to protect Maria Eugenia's honor in her father's eyes.
It's a perfectly constructed narrative. It ends with them being released the next morning only because, by chance, a new police chief recognized Hugo's important family name.
It's an alibi that cleverly substitutes a potential crime of passion, or immorality in their eyes, with a crime of political circumstance. It shifts the blame.
And the father, who's just desperately trying to hold his social world together, he basically has to accept it. Hugo leaves, and the father says that really heartbreaking line, acknowledging the performance, "Go now because they are worried at your house. I'm going to act like I believe you."
Yeah. He chose public order, saving face, over digging into a truth he probably didn't want to know.
But the internal truth, what Maria Eugenia calls the chronology of the happening in her memory, that's infinitely more fascinating. Because it wasn't controlled detention at all.
Not even close. It was chaotic defiance.
Okay, so let's pivot to the real night. What actually went down? Hugo wasn't driving his usual Impala. He was in the Jeep, the Finca car. Maybe it made them seem less conspicuous or maybe more, depending on the situation.
Right. They had dinner at La Tertulia, and instead of panicking when they realized they'd missed curfew, they made this, well, radical choice.
What was the choice?
They explicitly decided right then and there, let's ignore that time existed. That shared, deliberate act of defiance is what really turns the night from just being late into a full-blown disappearance.
And while the military detention was completely fabricated, there was an encounter with authorities, a very real one.
Oh, yes. They were parked on a dark street in Zone 12, near Pan Europa, just listening to music, talking, when a patrol car found them.
And Hugo didn't wait to talk.
No way. His reaction was instant. He slammed the Jeep into gear, tires screeching, and just sped off. The police reacted immediately by opening fire.
Wow.
Now, the narrator suggests maybe they were firing into the air or just had terrible aim, but the point is, shots were fired. They were genuinely fleeing for their lives, not sitting passively in some military office.
So they're driving frantically through the city, dodging capture, until they basically run out of steam, just exhausted. And this leads them to maybe the most memorable, almost bizarre hiding place in the whole story.
It really is. Funerales Mansella by Parque Cologne. A funeral home.
A funeral home. Why there?
Well, think about it. It's pre-dawn. They arrive in Zone 1 dead with laughter, as the narrator puts it, just from the sheer insanity of their escape. They desperately need water and a restroom.
And everything else is closed because of curfew or danger?
Exactly. But a funeral home, open 2:47.
So they sneak in.
And they end up spending part of the night sitting near an actual wake, drinking salted consomme and eating crackers. That's got to be the oddest fuel for a forbidden romance ever. It's such a stark contrast, isn't it? They're surrounded by real, verifiable grief while they're running on this adrenaline-fueled, life-affirming rebellion.
And the scene gets even more surreal.
Right, because Maria Eugenia, still in her school uniform, finally breaks down. She starts sobbing uncontrollably, not out of sadness for the deceased person at the wake, but from the sheer terror and adrenaline dump of the night.
And then a real mourner approaches them.
Yeah, a grieving family member comes over, sees this disheveled young girl in a uniform hysterically crying next to her boyfriend, and gets scared off. It just perfectly captures the utter chaos of their shared reality that night.
So as morning starts to break, the practicalities kick in. They're low on gas, need money.
Hugo had to leave her alone in the Jeep for about an hour, while he went to borrow cash from his married sister, Beatrice, who luckily lived nearby in Zone 1 or 2.
But even with the fear, the police chase, being left alone for a bit, the narrator looks back on this time with this sense of what she calls a nebulous happiness.
Yeah, and limitless complicity. That stolen time, the funeral home hideout, the shared adrenaline for her, it cemented that he was the love of her life. They hadn't even thought about cooking up an alibi yet.
Because in their minds, the emotional truth felt almost invincible. She sums up their thinking beautifully when they finally decide to head home. What power could the real world have over a love as strong as ours? Famous last words, almost.
which leads us straight into that powerful silence after they return. When Maria Eugenia finally has to face her father, she experiences what the source calls la mudez mutinous. She literally can't speak.
The stress, the trauma, it just paralyzes her ability to communicate.
Exactly. And her father, already at his breaking point emotionally, completely misinterprets this silence. He doesn't see trauma, he sees defiance.
He reads it as insolence, arrogance, or refusal to even ask for forgiveness.
And the narrator has this really sharp insight. She notes that when you temporarily lose the ability to speak, the face is incapable of showing emotions. It just locks her into this awful cycle of misunderstanding with her father.
And that silence, that inability to articulate the real chaotic truth, it creates a vacuum, doesn't it?
It does. And the outside world rushes in to fill that vacuum with its own assumptions, its own moral judgments. Despite the genuine danger they faced, the police chase, getting shot at, the disinheritance threat, Maria Eugenia knew exactly what everyone else imagined happened during that missing night.
Right. This is the deep irony we need to unpack. What was the popular assumption, the default explanation for their disappearance?
Well, according to the narrator, the cynical calculation of society was pretty swift and, frankly, brutal. She was certain that the cousins, Hugo's mother, his grandmother, even the pragmatic Carmen,
What did they assume?
they all likely imagined, and she uses this very stark phrase, genital rubbing necessities with all possible morbidity.
Wow. Just wow. The contrast is staggering. They live through this incredibly intense, high stakes, defiant, emotionally bonding experience, escaping gunfire, hiding in a funeral home.
And society's immediate default is the most judgmental, purely sexualized, and frankly reductive explanation possible.
It's a really profound indictment of the social structure they were trapped in, as the narrator reflects how little valued true love is sometimes. The preference is for a neat, moralizing transgression story over a messy, beautiful, but complicated, genuine connection.
Absolutely. It speaks volumes about the priorities of that world.
But the memoir excerpt doesn't end on that cynical note. Despite all the threats, the family shame, the need for that elaborate military lie, the painful silence, the source confirms they ultimately got their vindication.
They did. They won, in a sense. Maria Eugenia and Hugo got married just months later, on October 8th, only days before her graduation ceremony.
So they proved that the bond they forged in that night of defiance and chaos was actually stronger than all those overwhelming social forces trying to tear them apart.
Exactly. Their shared choice, their shared secret, ultimately prevailed.
So when we lay these two narratives side by side, the invented story of military detention versus the wild, chaotic truth of their spontaneous flight, what's the key takeaway here? What should we be thinking about?
Well, I think it really highlights the absolute necessity in certain rigid societies of crafting a believable external narrative just for survival. That military story was a tool, wasn't it? A way to neutralize social shame, allow the father to save face.
Right, it served a social function.
But the internal truth, the one with the screeching tires and the salted consomme in the funeral home, that was the actual foundation of their relationship, of their love. And that truth, held between them in silence, became almost sacred because it couldn't be spoken aloud.
So the ultimate protection wasn't the official alibi that satisfied the world.
No, it was the unspoken secret shared only between the two of them.
It makes you think, while the world often focuses on the big dramatic threats, the disinheritance, the family feuds, maybe the truest test of their love wasn't just surviving the danger.
But choosing to protect that shared, beautiful, messy secret together.
Right, protecting it against a world that just prefers easier, more judgmental explanations. It really forces us to ask, doesn't it? When is that deliberate choice of silence, that muteness, that shields a profound, private truth, actually more powerful, more protective than even the most elaborate, socially acceptable story you could invent?
It's a fascinating tension between the utility of narrative, what stories do for us in the world, and the sheer sanctity of private, shared experience. A really compelling place to leave it.